Welcome. Thanks for joining us here on the Andy Korge Show here at Miami Community News. I'm joined by the big guy himself to my left, Michael Miller, publisher, Miami Community News, the brains of our operation here.
Well, once in a while I get to do that.
Yeah, once in a while. Well, speaking of brains, so we're going to talk a lot of, unfortunately, Michael Kesty, the FBI informant who helped take down the former Sweetwater mayor, was unable to come in. He had a little medical procedure. We wish Michael, obviously, all the best today. And but he'll be back with us soon. But I wanted to talk, before we get talking about some news, and thanks, Michael, for joining me. Yes. We're going to talk about some news items that are going on today. I just want to talk about something that I saw as I get my watch party going here. I want to talk a little bit about something I heard today on my way here. And we mentioned brains of the operation. I'm wondering what the brains of the operation is over at WIOD today. Because I heard something today from Jimmy Cephalo that just made my skin crawl. And besides the fact that he mumbles through every broadcast, it seems like nowadays, when we talk about brains, somebody should get a CTE scan over there. But today, I don't know if you know, but the former star, I don't know his full name, but I know his last name is Diamond. He played Screech on Saved by the Bell. We remember that 80s sitcom, for kids primarily or teens. Well, he apparently has cancer, and he went to social media, Twitter, Facebook, to announce his cancer diagnosis. And Jimmy Cephalo made the comment that if you have cancer, or if you have a friend that has a loved one or a good friend that has cancer, don't put it on social media, because his exact lines were, no one cares. Well,
I got to tell you something. When I hear things like that, what about I hurt for the patient, the person that is ill, that wants to get it out there, that doesn't want to hold it in, that wants to share it so that they feel better about themselves. It may be for empathy or sympathy, but primarily it's they don't want to hold it, make it a secret anymore, so they can put it out there. So I'm all for it. In the beginning, I was, oh, well, maybe. But this is about the person that has it. You can interpret it, you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can make comments or ignore it.
Right. Exactly. And, sometimes we had a good friend, a high school friend that died several years ago of cancer. And she would put stuff out regarding the treatment she went through. She really battled it for a long time. And, we wanted her to put it out there, friends of hers, to see how she was doing. People don't want to call and say, hey, Michael, how you doing with that cancer? So it was important. Plus, created like some good juju, some good karma, Well,
there have been videos and pictures of patients in their last hours dying COVID in the hospital. That was so inspirational and so hard for those people to do it, because they felt better doing it. All right. And I got to tell you, I think that whatever way people want to express themselves, hop to it. And that may be the only way that they can do that. And they don't want to have to have one-on-ones. When my mother was sick, she was sick for 10 years. My God, everybody would be calling me, how's your mother? How's your mother? I got so tired of it. It's just like I wanted to avoid it. I have a friend whose wife's been sick for 25 years. And I said to him recently, so listen, I'm thinking about your wife all the time. All right. I'm just not going to bring it up anymore. If you want to talk about it, I'm there. And I think that's the way that it should be.
Yeah, you may have some great points, Michael, really. So do you, Mr. Cephalo, Jimmy Cephalo? Yes, we do care. We do care. So drop it at any rate. So we got other news stories that we're going to talk about today. I don't know if you saw, Michael, but they announced yesterday, the city of Miami, that vaccinations will be given out at Marlins Park. It joins now Tropical Park, Zoo Miami, and Hard Rock Stadium as locations for the new vaccination. Here's the twist. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez wants for residents of the city of Miami only to be able to receive these vaccinations. He's calling it Miami First. The state of Florida's Emergency Management Director, Jared Moskowitz, his comment quote was, and I'll read it here: "You can't do that."
So does that mean the city of South Miami, Village of Palmetto Bay, and unincorporated Kendall, if you will, or Sweetwater? That means only people in Sweetwater can come here? How can that be?
It can't be. And I'm not sure what Mayor Suarez's angle is with this. I don't know, gain favor with people in the city of Miami. Obviously, it's only over 65, people over 65 and essential workers and so forth that are allowed to get it right now. I mean, I don't know. What is he just trying to get in favor with people in the city of Miami? But if you live, as you said, in North Miami or in Kendall, then it means you can't go to Marlins Park to get your vaccination. It's preposterous. It's ridiculous. Stop politics.
Yes. And by the way, if we had more vaccine locations and more vaccine and more people to do it, it would be spread out equally throughout the county. But the people have the right to register wherever they are and get in line if that's what they need to do. And we need to go a little bit faster. All right, but I think
a lot faster
with the city of Miami. Shame on them for even suggesting that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw articles in the last week or so about how people were traveling in and getting vaccines. Look, I say at the end of the day, we just need people to get vaccinated. I don't care where they're coming from, quite frankly. I don't want people, relying or leaning on political favor to get it if they're not in the core group that they're giving vaccines to. I get that. But the idea is let's just get everybody in this country vaccinated.
Yes, but I think there's 34 cities. So imagine if we had 34 locations and only people from over there could go. So the person on the border couldn't register. I think that it's preposterous, and I hope the mayor changes that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm sure the state's going to have something to say about that because clearly it's not something that they're going to allow to happen. So again, probably Mayor Suarez just trying to, curry more favor and look like the pretty boy that he is with city of Miami residents.
He got that from his daddy. So Xavier, job well done. Francis, congratulations.
Yes, he
Mayors.
did. He did in great shape as well. So here's another one that just irked me today. I get up in the morning, I go onto my phone, I start reading stories, and this one just really rubbed me the wrong way. So our lovely Governor DeSantis, who I love to refer to as Governor DeSatan, he mentioned what his top policy priority is going to be in 2021. Is that going to be COVID recovery, vaccinations, the economy, transportation? No. If you guessed any of those, Michael, you're absolutely incorrect, sir. None of those. His top priority is going to be to prevent censorship of conservative values online. And he's alluding to Facebook, Twitter, Google, Instagram, etc. And here's his quote. Conservatives are a, quote, disfavored class based on our principles, based on having conservative views, based on being a Christian, based on whatever you say, not favored by Silicon Valley.
So let's look at Fox Network is pretty conservative, pretty right-sided. They have more viewers than MSNBC and CNN. So when Fox says, oh, the mainstream media, they are the mainstream media. There's plenty of that. And to the right of them, of Fox, is some other network that's starting up. I forget the name of Newsmax, whatever the name is. They are pushing Fox more to the left. It's not the conservative values, it's the extremes on both sides that we as human beings have a problem with. And folks, if you haven't seen, on Netflix there's a show called The Great Hack, and it's about Cambridge Analytica and how they were hired across the globe to get their clients elected. They elected some very important people by creating chaos. All right. So it's not the conservative views, they are everywhere. All right. It's when you have inflammatory things that are false. All right. And I've got a problem with that. And one of the things that we know, if you go on the radio and start espousing, false things, for instance, like, let's see, the theater's on fire, we're not allowed to do that. All right. I think that is just hokey
that's
pokey.
Not a First Amendment right.
Right. So 75 million people voted for for Trump in this, and a little bit more on the other side. So it's because of this diversity there that so many people went out and voted. And in 4 more years, it's going to switch. It switches back and forth. So I wish him lots of luck. I think that it's wrong, right? And
don't you think like his focus should be on the things that are important now,
such as staying alive?
Yes, the vaccines and COVID and the economy in Florida. I mean, listen, I saw on last week apparently was one of the big weeks for tourism in South Florida. The hotel occupancy was at its second highest rate since COVID. You know what that occupancy rate was in Dade County? Slightly over 50%. That's nothing.
Yes.
We're regularly this time of year, hotel occupancy in Miami-Dade County, we're regularly at 80 to 85% occupancy this time of year.
Okay, I think we're going to probably talk about the aid package that's going to come in. You want to talk about that now?
Yeah. I just do want to say one other thing about the DeSantis is that, lastly, why is he even talking about conservative values? And he's obviously alluding to President Trump being, ceremoniously dumped off of Twitter and social media by those outlets. And he's a governor in the state of Florida. He has no control over that. He's not a federal officer. He's a state officer. Stop with the damn rhetoric. We're tired of it.
Again, we frequently do things on social media. There are certain rules with that. And I get it. If you wanted to write an editorial in a newspaper or a story, there's certain rules that you have on there. People have been expressing themselves, and people get warnings all the time about you can't do that, you can't do that. Especially on TV, there's certain things you can and you can't do.
Exactly.
Right? So I think that, as you're pointing out, the governor should focus on things that are most important to most Americans, the most Floridians, the most Dade Counties, which is staying alive, having jobs, making sure that we can get the vaccine and our kids back in school and return to what we would call our normal life.
Exactly. And so segueing into that, yesterday, President-elect Joe Biden, who will be inaugurated in just a few days, next Wednesday, introduced his $1.9 trillion COVID recovery plan. It will provide, part of the details are that it will provide a $1,400 additional stimulus check to all qualified people making under $75,000 a year. He said yesterday that the vaccine rollout is a failure, which it has been. Certainly not delivered the quantity of vaccines that we would have liked to have seen and had expected at this point in time, and said the plan would meet the goal of administering 100 million vaccines in the first 100 days. The plan also shoehorns in a couple policies that the Dems have been trying to get into the Congress, one being $15 minimum wage, also an increase in tax credits to families with children. They believe that will put working mothers back into the workplace a little quicker. So he's taking bold action. And I got to tell you, Michael, I am really, and I'm curious of your opinion, I'm very optimistic about a Biden presidency.
Well, last night when I watched him, it was such a pleasure to see him speak about the hope and about tomorrow is going to be better. And here's the things that we're going to do. And it's no longer about politicking. It's a matter of how the country is going to help the citizens. And I got to tell you, I turned off whatever else it was. I managed to be able to put my phone down, turn off the other distraction and watch him. It's not whether he was a Democrat or Republican. It was inspirational and tried to put people together and focus on the things that are important to each one of us without regard to our policies.
And one of the things I love about what Biden has done so far is that he hasn't cowered to the far left, okay? The right's was saying all throughout the election how, he's going to come in and he's going to try to, radicalize America and bring all these socialistic programs to America. And he has not cowered to the far left, the Bernie Sanders wing, the AOC wing of which is a small part of that party.
Yes. And as we look at this, people always take the extremes on one side or the other. Right, and then try to include that in the mainstream. The mainstream for most people's middle, center, center right, center left, and I think that's where the core are. But it's easy to talk about AOC. But what about the other couple of hundred people that are in that group on the left. And I think that it's important for us to look at what's really going to happen over the next 6 months and the next year, to say our kids are going to be safe, that we're going to be safe. I'm getting my second vaccine shot in a week and a half.
Oh, great.
And when I got the first one, I got to tell you, I sat there and I just cried. All right. It's just like some lady sitting next to me. Are you okay? I said, listen, I'm fine. All right. But when that happens, when you realize that you're partway through this and you're not going to get sick, you're not going to hopefully infect the people that you care about, it will change the mood of America as we keep getting more and more protected. And I'm delighted that the Congress hopefully is going to approve this package or something that's going to dramatically help each and every one of us. Yeah,
because we desperately need it. You know, I yesterday or day before yesterday applied with my bank. It hasn't opened. The SBA has not opened receiving the applications for the second round of the PPP. And, you know, my company's the tourist-based accommodation business. And we suffered, you know, I was going through the numbers just a few days ago versus last year. And it's not just the decrease in revenue, but it's the dramatic decrease in what we can sell room nights for. We were selling room nights and most of the locations that we have hotels for 35 to 40% more than less than we were selling them last year. And so revenue is decreasing dramatically. Now I'm seeing a shift in we were receiving virtually no reservations from people out of the country. And as you know, South Florida is a big international tourist destination. But now we're starting to see, I noticed in the last couple weeks, we're starting to see some reservations from England and Brazil and some other places that we used to see many from.
We do a lot of newsletters. We send out literally millions of emails a month to our subscribers, and I'm beginning to see an increase in the number of inquiries. Can you do this? Can you do that? That's the first thing. Can you run the story, or how much is whatever you're selling? And I'm seeing more and more inquiries from around the country as compared to 3 or 4 months ago. So there is this hope that's out there that it's going to get better. And down here in South Florida, and particularly Miami, tourism is a gigantic part of what makes us work down here.
No question about it. So President-elect Biden's COVID recovery plan, again, $1.9 trillion. Hopefully it'll get money into people's pockets that need it. You know, I wavered over the whole concept of just sending out checks to people, because many of the people that are receiving those checks have worked. I mean, I look at all my kids, you know, thank God, haven't lost their jobs since COVID started. But I thought to myself, you know, 2 of my kids don't make $75,000 a year or more. And so I wondered, well, do they really need a check for it? But the argument on the other side is, because that's the argument on the Republican side, why are we sending money to people that are still maintained, still have their jobs? But on the flip side, it is the concept that money comes in and it goes out right back out into the economy.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because when people they have rent to pay, all right, they have food to buy, all right, they have kids to take care of, all right, and most Americans don't save and that need money, right? So when they get this money, you're right, they're going to spend it, which means it makes it all the way around.
It really does. It does. And so that's what we're looking at. That plan should be introduced. I mean, I think the whole country is looking for quick action once Biden takes office on Wednesday. Biden-Harris, I anticipate we're going to see that quick action. And you know what? He has to move quickly, because the fact of the matter is he's going to have a majority in the U.S. Senate. He has a majority in the House of Representatives, and that might not last after, you know, more than 2 years. So he's got to move quickly and get a lot of this stuff that people want to see enacted right away. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's still food lines down there, but a lot of people have fatigue about it. All right. So donations are still needed. All right. And I agree with you 100% that during this time, this is the time that people need it. All right. And there's this short period of time. It could be as short as a year and a half before it starts to switch, because that politics stuff is going to start popping up again. And I'm all for making America great. All right. And this is the time we need it. And as Biden pointed out, lots of people making money with the stock market. Great, but what does that do for my neighbor and on both sides of us? And when we see the disparity, all right, that's going on between the poor and the working poor and the working middle class and the rich, it is huge. So I hope that this is going to help even out some of that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that is what has caused the demise of many great governments and many great civilizations, has been the disparity in wealth. And we're seeing it more and more in the United States. The uber rich become richer and richer and richer. And there's a larger, low income, poorer class in America today than probably ever before.
And if I interpret it correctly, it seems like there's going to be a lot of work programs about government infrastructure that's going to be done, going to put people, 18 million jobs, I think I heard. When that happens, people feel good about themselves, right? And without regard to what party they are, they want to work. That's part of what people do. And in particular for the chauvinistic men in society, we want to be providers. We want to go out and do the hunting and bring it home for the wife and to the children. And so this will certainly improve that.
Yeah, I think so. So, well, that all starts next week, Wednesday, with the inauguration. And hopefully, I anticipate, I'm feeling a little antsy about next week. They anticipate protests all throughout America. And and the District of Columbia. I'm very worried about what might occur next week, but I'm hoping that we get through that time and people move on. I wasn't happy when Donald Trump was elected to office in 2016, but I accepted the election, and I tried to move forward with the concept that, hey, we're all united, we're all one country. We move forward under the leadership of the President of the United States, whoever that person is, that a majority of the Electoral College decides. And that's the way our system works. And we have to move forward in a peaceful way, not in the way that we saw people moving forward last week in that raid on the U.S. Capitol.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because when people feel better about themselves, there'll be less problems in their lives. And so I just tell people, just wait another 2 years before you go and you start objecting stuff. Work together, work with your families, work with your local businesses. And with the government help that seems to be on its way, people are going to feel a lot better. And I hope that come next week, everything that nobody gets hurt. That's what I hope.
Yeah, me too, my friend. Well, and Tommy, I'm curious of your opinion of this. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about, you talk about, football coaches and the NFL, and there's been a movement, the Rooney Rule, they call it, making sure that African Americans are properly interviewed and hired in positions of strength, head coaches, general managers in the NFL. Well, yesterday, our hated New York Jets hired 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. You know what the significance of that is, Michael?
I'm about to find out.
Robert Saleh is the first Muslim head coach in the NFL. And I don't know if it's significant. I don't know if we should even be talking about it today. I don't know if anyone really even cares. But I think it's good that the NFL is just picking the right person. A team like the Jets, kudos to them. They're not worried about the color.
Does he have experience?
Huh?
Does he have experience?
Yeah, he was a 49ers defensive coordinator. Tommy, I guess you know more about his background, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's he was on the same staff with Pete Carroll that won the Super Bowl in 2013 with the Seahawks. I mean, the guy's been around a little bit. And look, the 49ers defense is one of the top 5 defenses. I mean, he's deserving of the job.
Yeah, and this year with a boatload of injuries, as you might recall.
Yeah.
and a lot of COVID absences on their roster in San Francisco. So, hey, that's a good thing, man.
Yeah.
Let's include everybody in this world.
Let's talk about it in sports. I'm not a sports fan, but I remember, if I remember correctly, the first black quarterback. What was his name?
I think it was James Harris, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. And then there was the first black coach.
Right.
All right. And then what about the Miami Marlins recently? They hired the first woman.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Woman executive.
Right. I think in this day and age, it's like, so what? All right. 5 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, people would go like this. He's black. No kidding, he's black, right?
Well, yeah, you remember the days, and Tommy, you remember too. I mean, well, you're younger than us, but you remember the days when they would say, well, you can't have a black guy being an NFL quarterback because they're not smart enough.
When I heard that, I went, oh my goodness, it's real. And that was 20 years ago. And so when you look at those things, the changes in our society and how we've been more accepting, sports have brought that forth. Jackie Robinson's a perfect example, right? It was like, right, the first, what do you call that?
Baseball
player. It's like, now you go, well, of course, right? So I think that we've all gotten used to it. It is worth acknowledging that we are making great strides.
And I love Miami, how inclusive we are here. I think we're more inclusive in Miami than a lot of places. You mentioned, and I don't recall her name, the new executive woman.
Her name's Kim Ng.
Kim Ng.
Yeah.
You might recall, Tommy, and maybe you don't remember, but we had a woman executive here in Miami with a professional sports team, and her name was Pauline Winnick. Sure. At the Miami Heat. She was, I think, maybe the first woman executive in any sport.
Worked for the county for years.
Right, Pauline, and she was she did a fantastic job with the Miami Heat when she was with them for many years.
By the way, March is Women's History Month, by the way. We happen to be doing a special section for that. And so again, the way I see it, that sports, they may even have an obligation to bring that stuff out of the closet, if you will, to bring them out there. As long as those people are qualified, that's terrific, right?
Yeah, and the concept of, and you hear it from a lot of people to the far right, and it's offensive to me. And LeBron James has talked about this many, many times. But it's the concept of, shut up and dribble. And you're a basketball player. You shouldn't be commenting on social issues, on political issues, et cetera, et cetera. I say no. These guys, a guy like LeBron James, I don't know what his following is on Twitter, but it's I'm sure tens of millions of people. And you should use that fame for a greater purpose than just collecting a big check and going to a strip joint and throwing $1 or $100 bills into the air. Not to make the claim that LeBron James does that. But, there's this perception, and I know Brett Romberg and I, during our show, Romberg Korge, here at Miami Community News, have talked about this item many times, that, players feel they're more socially conscious. They feel more responsibility, that they are not just athletes anymore. They're celebrities.
Well, when the sports team hires somebody other than the norm, back when it would have been white middle-aged guys, all right, they knew what that was going to do, that they've hired qualified people and been able to open it up. How about the first woman football reporter that was out there, right? And even now I sort of cringe. I go, what does that mean? Does that mean they're walking in the locker room, right? And it's like, when that first happened, I forget the woman's name. It was like, can she do the job? Well, of course. And you've had on your show the I forget her name. She's the boxing
Claudia Trejo.
How terrific is that? But I sat over there to listen to this. This lady should knock your head off. And as far as the information that she has, that knowledge that she has gained, highly qualified. And again, so without regard to what color they are, what gender they are, or where they're from, if they're qualified, great.
And you bring up the women, and it's great. I'd love to tell you this little story, but Leslie Visser has been a friend of mine for many years. And I met her through politics, not really through journalism or broadcasting. And Leslie took over. Phyllis George, you might remember, was the first announcer on NFL doing the pregame show many, many years ago. And when Phyllis George left that spot, Leslie Visser took her place. Leslie was a sideline reporter. To this day, she maintains a contract with CBS. And I don't know if she even works much, but they still pay her just to have her. She's in the NFL Hall of Fame. She is one of, and as long as I've known her and talked to other, noted sports journalists, she is one of the most respected NFL announcers. If you ask them, they'll always mention Leslie, even though she semi-works. She lives right over here in Indian Creek. I've had her on my radio show several times. She's an amazing, amazing person. And because she's a woman, she, at one time had a hard time getting into the TV side of journalism.
Andy, one thing that I'm forgetting, I can't believe you didn't mention this because you're a Gator.
Yes.
Urban Meyer is the new head coach of Jacksonville.
Well, you beat me to the punch, my friend, but thank you for bringing that up. So what do you get, Tommy, when you combine Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer? You get the Jacksonville Jaguars and probably a lot more wins in the future.
I would probably say eight wins.
I mean, I don't know.
Under? I
don't know if that much, but Urban Meyer, you know what Urban Meyer's winning percentage is in college football? 85%. 85% of the games that he coached at college, whether it was Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, Ohio State, he wins 8.5 games out of every 10.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, it's unreal. And
you could bet on that.
I mean, my gosh. So I think
the only problem I have with it is that college coaches that have gone to the pros, most of them are busts.
Most of them are. And he may be. But I tell you what, he's got quite a head start with getting a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. And I venture to say, Tommy, that's why he took the job, was because he knew that they were getting a kid coming in at 6'6", 230 pounds that can wing the ball all around the field, that is clearly going to be a franchise quarterback, probably for the next, barring injury, the next 10 or 15 years in Jacksonville. So he's back in the state of Florida. And as a Gator, we hate Urban Meyer.
Well, by the way, he must be pretty thin if he's 6'6" and he only weighs 230, huh, Tommy?
Yeah, it's like me.
Except Tommy's got about 10 inches less than that. But yes, Urban Meyer, thanks for bringing it up, Tommy. Urban Meyer, the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we'll see how all that works out. But my gut is, it's going to be going in the positive direction for our NFL franchise in Jacksonville.
Do we have some local issue?
I want to ask you about it. Maybe we can close with this. But I read in the Miami community newspapers.
How about that?
I read the Miami community news because you know what? That's where you get hyper local news. You don't get it anywhere else in South Florida. But for Miami-Dade County, I was reading about how new Commissioner Keone McGee in South Dade is now fighting against the rapid bus that was approved and wants the county to abandon that plan and go with a rail down to the south part of the county.
Last week, he sat exactly where you are, and that's what he told us, all right?
And he told you that?
Yes.
Well, why? I don't understand.
Because I'm going to surmise, all right? He said we deserve more, all right? That people don't want just a bus, all right? And that we've waited long enough, and that it should be better. And when I spoke to the Cutler Bay mayor on right where you're sitting, he said we shouldn't pass up good looking for perfect. Meaning, what's wrong with having the buses now? And then maybe if it grows to apply for some money. I understand there's $300 million that's been put aside for these buses, and that it's well on its way, could be implemented in a year and a half to 3 years, could be implemented. If all that gets abandoned and you start over from the get-go, I'm not sure how long it would take, but years and years and years. And what I've been told that the federal government wants evidence that a rail-type product is needed. There's been figures banted around about 35,000 riders a day. It's not an official number, but there has to be something that the federal government can say, yes, they need it, not want it, but need it, and can demonstrate a need, and then to go forth. But the question is, do we want something in 1.5 to 3 years, or do we want to wait 5 to 10 years? or longer for something else.
But did he explain? Because I really don't understand it. What's the difference between being on a bus or a rail that's running along the ground?
For the life of me, I don't know. I can't figure that out. I mean, it's a car, a vehicle.
It's just not as sexy because it's a bus.
That's as I listen to people, what is the difference? All right. And right now, the way that a lot of people that want some immediate attention, which is let's get that running, see if people will take that. Right. And if all of a sudden there's this huge input, people are there all the time and they're moving and it's great for them. They can go here and there and all the way down south. Then maybe there'll be a need to elevate it, not this way, but to pick up. And again, I'm not sure the real difference between having a metal rail.
I mean, they both. Correct me if I'm wrong, but both of those, whether it's a bus or a rail, both of them, people get in it, they sit in a seat, and they're moved from point A to point B. Right?
Yes.
So I don't really understand what the rub is. I do know this, that traffic is a problem. Transportation is a problem in Miami-Dade, especially when you come from from west to east, from south to north, right?
Yes. And some method of transportation to move the people from south to north is definitely needed. And come September, all right, all the traffic issues are going to be back. All right. Maybe
Yes.
not in June, but certainly by September when the kiddies are back in school.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that this plan has been, has gone through the process now for some time. It was approved. The funds are sitting there for it. I think the county needs to move forward with the bus or the bus plan and not take a step back. You know what? Look at the Coconut Grove Playhouse. It's a great example. I want this.
How long's that been going on?
It's been 15, 16, 18 years. It's been a long time. I want this. No, I want that. And they fight amongst, well, should it be a 500-seat theater? Should it be a 2,000-seat theater? Should we leave the facade only? Should we restore the entire building? I mean, and meanwhile, it sits there as an eyesore in the middle of Coconut Grove, what was once the gem of Coconut Grove is now the eyesore of Coconut Grove.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because right now, if Commissioner Keone, one of the new commissioners, really pushes for that, he's going to have to get his other commissioners to vote to take federal money and put it down there. Right now, from what I've gathered, it's already committed, $300 million or so. Maybe you want to invite him on the show so you can have a real conversation with him.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But so those are some of the stories going on here in South Florida in our country today. If you want to find out in your community any of the local stories that are of importance to you in your community, whether that's Cutler Bay, Sunny Isles, Aventura, Miami, Doral, anywhere, Palmetto Bay, the place to find that is at Miami Community News, whether online or that little paper publication. They're still out there that you might see at your favorite restaurant or your favorite drugstore, convenience store. That's where you get hyper local news in our community, is right here at Miami Community News. Monday, hopefully he doesn't have a medical procedure, but Monday I've got the amigo Millian. Larry Millian runs the broadcast program at Slam Academy, the academy run by or owned by the charter school owned by Pitbull, and heavily involved DJ Laz, who, by the way, just got hired back by iHeartRadio after his non-compete. We're going to start hearing DJ Laz back on the radio again, I believe at 94.9 FM. But we're going to have Larry here. What's so beautiful about the program, and people who watch on Monday will be able to find out about it, is he's taking these young kids, 14 to 18 years of age, in high school, Slam Academy, that are learning how to become broadcasters, real broadcasters. And you know what they're doing? It's not just some little radio station that people in their own, school can hear. They are broadcast on Sirius XM radio, on satellite radio worldwide.
That's great. But by the way, I recognize that last name. Is there a relationship to somebody?
No real. I'm going to ask him that question. I think he may be related to Alberto Milian distantly. Alberto, as you know, a well-known lawyer, judge here in South Florida, who's run for state attorney several times, and a former radio personality that actually I hired at WKAT at one time. An old friend, but so that's what's happening on Monday here during the Andy Korge Show at Miami Community News. I hope you'll join us then. Thank you for joining us today. Listen, it's a long weekend. Enjoy it. Should be a beautiful weekend in South Florida. Enjoy the weekend, but stay safe. Keep wearing those masks. Keep keeping the social distance. Do the right thing, and please keep yourself and people around you safe. Thanks for joining us here from Miami Community News, and we'll see you Monday on the Andy Korge Show. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.